James Grande, welcome into the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook live show here for Friday's 12-game main slate. James, a big one to end the week. Some pretty interesting matchups, and if you paid attention to our podcast earlier this morning, James and I are really keying in on a couple of stacks here today.
Yeah, happy Friday, John. Great to almost be,
It's Friday,
into the
James. A little more
into the week,
enthusiasm. Be a little
into the
more
weekend.
here, we're here.
We are here. Enthusiasm is, there for the baseball slate. I mean, a lot of things going on right now. Baseball, we got playoff basketball. Your Celtics hopefully don't go down 2-0 tonight for
Probably
your
will. Probably
sake.
will. I've said all along the Miami Heat were the most dangerous team for anybody to face in the playoffs. They're a battle-hardened, playoff-tested, and I was not a believer in their 8 seed. I told Justin Fenchman that like 10 times, and here we are. They're once again in the Eastern Conference Finals. Seemingly like every year, the Heat are like the guard you got to get by to get to the finals. So.
Yeah, no Tyler Hero in that regard as well, who was like their second best player all year long.
They got Jimmy Buckets, man. That's all you need.
It's NFL season everywhere, so
WNBA kicks off tonight. Steve Pimentel with our WNBA DFS playbook out there, and you can get all of that content, James. If you're a member of our All-Pro team here, you go to fansong.com/All-Pro. Promo code MLB50 saves you 50% off the first 6 months, $19.98 a month for the first 6 months, and we have a 7-day free trial included with all of that as well. So we'll get all that out of the way. Okay, little promo for everybody. Download the free Better Sports Network app, iTunes, Google Play Store. Get in all the contests we got going on there with Better Cast and on-demand podcast streams and things of that nature as well. A lot going on here at Fantasyland, Better Sports Network. It's all great things. So we have 12 games to talk about tonight here, James.
Yeah, we have a lot of games. Nothing's necessarily changed all that much on the Vegas front. I would say biggest news thus far of the slate is the return of Jose Altuve, returning to the Astros lineup tonight, leading off. He was 2 for 22 in the minor leagues before, his return. But they said nothing matters other than the health of the thumb, and apparently the thumb feels good. Altuve, very cheap on FanDuel, not very cheap on DraftKings. But I think the return of Altuve has moved that line quite a bit. We were talking about it on the podcast this morning. Brandon Bielak was the biggest favorite on the board, minus 230. That's now ballooned to minus 265 over on DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 270 on FanDuel Sportsbook. That's direct correlation to getting Altuve back, to just deepening that lineup. RIP Mauricio Dubuon. He is no longer in that Astros lineup with the return of Jose Altuve. Bielak and the Astros now biggest favorites on the board by a significant margin. Martin Perez, as we alluded to last night, minus 191 to open, minus 225 at current standing. Bryce Elder, minus 150. That line has shifted in his favor. I think people are picking up on the fact that, Bryce Miller throws a lot of fastballs, and guess what Atlanta does? They hit fastballs quite well. Anthony DeSclafani, minus 125. Blake Snell against your Boston Red Sox, minus 150. Those are the most notable money lines we have on the over-under. 9.5 in Oakland, Houston. That is predicated solely on the Houston side of things, with Ken Waldichuk, pitching opposing them, and how many home runs he's allowed so far. 9 runs implied in KC Chicago. But that's really it. Like, there's not a ton of high over-unders. We don't have Coors. We don't have like Great American. We don't have like all these ballparks. And Eister, you're right, brother. Let's get this weekend started. I don't agree on the second part on the Orioles win. Neither does John, because we both root for teams in your division, and we hope that you fail. Not you personally. We hope you win money, but we hope the Orioles fail. Happy Friday to you too, and happy Friday to the FA Nation. And John, 12 games. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it here. You mentioned obviously Bielak, and I think that's more Houston being a big heavy favorite. I don't necessarily know if Bielak is the guy we're looking to play today.
Well, you didn't read my playbook then. Good on you.
Well, I know he's in the playbook. I'm just saying. Like, to me, I don't know. A team being a heavy favorite doesn't always necessarily mean good things for the starting pitcher. So,
Sure.
Joe Ryan's up top, Sandy Alcantara, Bryce Miller, Bryce Elder. Again, you were on the playbook today, so talk to me, man. How are you breaking down this top tier?
I mean, I like Joe Ryan quite a bit. I think he is the top arm of the slate. I understand it's, it can be daunting facing Trout, Ohtani, just seeing those names hit atop the lineup. But Joe Ryan has beat the Astros, Boston, and the Yankees twice already this year. Like, he has faced the who's who in the American League and has had no problem with them. He's had one bad start, I'll say like that, where he allowed 4 earned. He had 10 strikeouts in that start. And again, it was against Houston. So I like Joe Ryan quite a bit. He's my top spend up of the day. I mean, again, he's gone for 10 strikeouts 3 times this year. It wouldn't put it past him to get a 4th. I love Sandy Alcantara. I love the depth, and now that we're like recovered from that like weird shoulder fatigue that he was pitching through, 103, 113, 106 pitches, but he just hasn't looked the same. There's been a lot of base runners, 9 or more in 3 straight games. Like, that's just not the NL Cy Young we saw last year. I mentioned Bryce Miller is just throwing fastballs, and that's bad business when you're facing Atlanta. Like, we said it the other day. Every day, Ronald Acuna is either hitting a home run or stealing bases. And now we get a righty throwing fastballs. And that's what Bryce Miller does. And you can get away with that when you face Detroit, a struggling Houston lineup at the time, and Oakland. Like, those are his first 3 matchups. Atlanta is not those teams, pal. So I'm not necessarily on Miller. I understand he's been great. If you want to get there, fine. Just, he'll be uber contrarian. I kind of like Bryce Elder. The only thing we have to worry about with Elder is the pitch count and like the depth that he gets into the game, because 3 of the last 4 starts, he hasn't pitched in, or I shouldn't say, he hasn't completed 6 innings. And we're talking about a guy who's 9,200 now. The one start he did, we get 30 fantasy points. So we see the upside out of him against the bottom 10 offense in Seattle against right-handed pitching, and an offense that's second in strikeout rate. So up top, it's Joe Ryan and Elder for me, and then taking some shots on the rest of the position, because it falls off a cliff mighty fast.
Sure. Just going to your Bryce Miller point, 63% fastballs, 21% slider.
It's just like, I mean, it's all fastballs.
He does have an expected WOBA of just 257 on Baseball Savant. So he is, granted matchup wise, but he has been dominating.
Sure.
Throwing that pitch mix there. So I'm with you again. We built a lineup last night that shortly after the podcast ended, I was like, oh man, we were a pivot off, and I sent you kind of what I would have gone to there. That used Ryan and Bryce Elder. It was double spend ups. I didn't find the need to go into the mid tier at all to get the comfortable stack that we wanted. So I don't really think we need to dive down in here. I know you wrote the playbook. You got a couple of mid-tier and value guys in there. So tell me about it. Who are you looking at when it comes to this middle and bottom range?
Yeah, so it's nothing that I'm like really confident about. I wrote up Anthony DeSclafani mainly because Miami's lineup is so atrocious. They're missing their 2 most powerful lefty bats in Jazz Chisholm and Jesus Sanchez, both on the IL. They called up a bunch of guys. Like, they're relying on, they led Gene Segura off yesterday. They have Yuli Gurriel hitting in the middle of their lineup. Like, they are really depleted. Yes, they got Garrett Cooper back. Garrett Cooper is not someone that we're like really that worried about.
There's power in that bat.
There is power. Granted, and it's the same thing can be said about Soler, but other than like Soler and Brian De La Cruz and Luis Arias, of course, there's really not much thump in Miami's lineup. I like DeSclafani. The last start, he was dealing with a toe injury, and there was some speculation that he was going to miss the start, but they've cleared him of the injury, and I think it's been bothering him for the last couple starts. I'm okay getting to DeSclafani. I'm also very, very, very probably alone on this island of James Paxton here, but he looked pretty damn good in that start in Boston against a very good left-handed hitting team in St. Louis. And he actually got unlucky in that game. He pitched to a 338 BABIP. The xFIP was like 2 runs lower than his ERA finished. We've always known James Paxton to be a guy who misses a lot of bats when he's going well.
Sure.
But we haven't seen James Paxton on the mound because he hasn't been able to ever stay healthy. Like that's been his MO, just unable to stay healthy.
I always worry a little bit too. Like he came out his one start, 5 innings, 9 Ks, great, like you mentioned. I mean, he was horrible during rehab. Now I get like sometimes in rehab, guys are just working through motions. They're just making sure they're not getting hurt. Like they're testing the arm strength, they're building up pitches, and they get into the major league level. Now they're in a real competitive setting and they turn into a different gear. But it's not like for a lack of outings, right? He pitched 21 innings. He made 5 starts, 6 appearances, gave 16 runs on 18 hits in 21 innings at AAA.
Sure.
So, yes, he looked great-ish in his debut start for sure. I need to see it again, 100%. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, the Padres, we always talk about it. Like on paper, the Padres look great, right? Like why, but they haven't necessarily performed great this season. So, I get it. You're throwing darts here down below. You don't feel comfortable with a lot of these guys. I understand that. I'm also just sort of like a frustrated Red Sox fan. So I'm just like, yeah, James Paxton's the answer. I've seen this before. The guy gets hurt every other day. So, yeah, kind of interesting the spot there. I also don't like the 8,300. If he was $7,300, I'd feel a little bit better about it. Like, all right, easier chance for him to hit value. The 8,300 just scares me off a little bit.
I think there's a couple things working in his favor. I'm not disagreeing on the price tag. San Diego over the last 2 weeks, 28th in OPS, and we've talked about it a bunch. Like,
yeah,
it's been Tatis, it's been Soto. Soto's been awful against lefties this year. So I'm not going to just completely exclude Soto from that conversation, but like he's not hitting lefties. So like one of their better hitters of late is not hitting this handedness of pitching. Sure. Xander Bogaerts is hitting 4th. He's not hitting well, or leadoff. We saw the last couple nights.
Right.
Like,
don't know if Machado's going to be in the lineup or not.
25% K rate over those last 2 weeks as well. Like, there's not a lot going well for San Diego. And then on top of that, you take a very good pitcher's environment in San Diego, big ballpark, tougher place to hit than other ballparks, and you arrive at a scary. Yes, sure. I'm fully aware that James Paxton is not like the most slam dunk. You're not using him in cash for sure.
Sure.
But it's like then we get to in theory, Carlos Carrasco would be a good play. The pitch count's just not going to be there for him. I'm not paying $8,200 for Carlos Carrasco because one, Cleveland, no matter who's in the lineup, they just don't strike out. Right. And 2, now we're talking about a depressed pitch count. Can't do it. Kikuchi, the power allowed is starting to creep back in, and we know what Baltimore can do against lefties. Reed Detmers is someone I really want to get to, and you and I talked about it on the podcast last night. Like, yeah, I like Detmers, and I like the spot, but like, boy, he's just not another guy. Just like, I'd rather just pay for. I mean, Paxton's made 1 start and already has a higher ceiling than Detmers has showed this year. There's like 2 guys I would be interested down here. Belak is one, and I get it. There's been a lot of base runners against like pretty bad offenses of late. But the strikeouts have been there in 2 of the starts. The ground balls are great. Obviously, he's allowed home runs in 3 straight starts. Oakland is definitely a better team against lefties. So we have that working for us. They're a top 10 offense against lefties. They are 4th worst in OPS against righties. So we have that going for us. They have a 25% K rate. We've already seen Belak, in 4 innings, his first outing this year, have 6 strikeouts. So you couple that with the fact that it doesn't look like there's any pitch count limitations. At least we can see a case where he's throwing 90 pitches in this game or more. Yeah. Unlike Carrasco and probably Ranger Suarez, 2 guys that we'd probably get to if their pitch counts were, up to snub. So I like Belak being the big favorite. And I could see a case for Jake Irvin as well, who gets, the worst offense in baseball, or what is likely the worst offense in baseball. Even though Cleveland has been bad, there's still one team worse against right-handed pitching this year. That is the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
They have a 24% K rate. We just saw 2 starts ago against a team that we hold in high regards against right-handed pitching in San Francisco, get shut down. And yes, he struggled against the Mets his last time out. That was the last time the Mets scored runs until their last couple games. But Irvin's 6,700 is interesting. 24 fantasy point upside at 6,700 on this slate is not the worst feeling in the world.
Irvin was the value guy that I was leaning towards, honestly, of the group. Again, like I get the BLAC thing, and you allude to the 380 BABIP against for sure. His expected ERA is over 8. So I mean, like he's been getting very lucky even with the BABIP.
Right.
A 92% strand rate, 18 hits to Seattle and Washington.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Chicago.
It's brutal.
But it is Oakland. So to your point, he could easily go down. Irvin was the value guy that I was taking a peek at there for sure. Cal Quantrill just doesn't strike anybody out. So
no. There's a lot of expected regression coming with Cal Quantrill.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Irvin was the guy that I was peeking at down in this range for sure. I don't really think there was much else. I talked about Martin Perez a little bit on the podcast this morning. Again, I know a lot of the numbers on him don't look great either. It's more so just getting a matchup against Colorado, being on the road there. But I felt pretty comfortable building lineups with these top 4 starters today. So I didn't think I needed to go too far down into the value tier. Let's go over to catcher. And again, if you guys are tuning in, first time, for a long time, whatever, you want to get your questions answered, type them into the chat. James and I will be more than happy to answer your lineup cues throughout the stream here. So top 3 favorite pitchers so far. Brendan just joined the show. For me, it was Ryan. It was Bryce Elder. And let's see, where else? You said Desclafani was the third that you kind of like.
I honestly, if I'm
Paxton,
I would in GPPs. Paxton's my third, just to be different. And if my favorite spend down is between Belak and Irvin.
Okay. But Ryan and Bryce Elder for me are my 1-2 clear
yes,
plays.
Agreed.
Catcher spot here. Again, a bunch of guys with matchups we like against lefties, right? Will Smith gets a lefty in Mats.
Yes.
Rutschman gets a lefty in Kikuchi. We were, I think, one of the first ones on the Kikuchi regression. We stacked against him against the Red Sox, and he just got labeled.
Yep.
And then we have Elias Diaz against Perez. Again, Elias Diaz doesn't really matter where he is or whatever. He's hitting everybody. So $4,600 for him. Jonah Heim at $3,900 feels like one of our favorite plays of the board tonight. So in that 4K-ish and up range, that's who I'm going for. But there are guys down as well that we like also.
Yeah. This is maybe, I don't know if I would say like the best or the hardest catcher position to choose from, but usually you and I are just like so ready to just punt the position.
Yeah,
and I don't
just play Jonah Heim and move on, but there's other options now.
Or Gabriel Moreno when the Diamondbacks are on the slate, right? It's like I don't feel that way today because I want to get to Will Smith. Righties have killed Steven Matz. Will Smith himself, 318 ISO, 398 WOBA against left-handed pitching this year, has not struck out against left-handed pitching this year. Like, love Will Smith. We know Rutschman and the power hit a home run yesterday. Kikuchi allowing nothing. I mean, the guy's just come into Major League Baseball a few years ago and just done nothing but allow power.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Elias Diaz. I'll even throw Salvi in there. Kopech does not get anybody out, righty or lefty split. Like, he just can't. There's just like a lot of struggles for Michael Kopech. Like, he has not turned into the guy. Anyone, 297 ISO allowed to right-handed bats. Salvi, 256 ISO against right-handed pitching.
They broke Kopech by trying to make him a starter because they needed someone to replace Chris Sale. The man was throwing 100. Just let him be your closer. Like, why are we stretching him out?
That experiment not going well. So, like, I could see a case to get to Salvi 47. You mentioned Elias Diaz hitting third. And Jonah Heim has hit from both sides of the plate this year and has a guy that had an 8 ERA. Granted, it was a PCL 8 ERA. But an 8 ERA in AAA nonetheless now has to pitch in Texas
Right.
and against a lineup that's full. Like it has Corey Seager. It has like the whole lineup is
Yeah. And
complete
Heim
there.
killing it at home this year, power wise, 945 OPS, 597 slug at home this season for him.
John, a couple questions on our Discord if you guys want to get in over there as well.
Sure.
Comes with the package there. Any love for Nico Horner min price on Yahoo? I feel like min price Nico Horner is for me. Like
Yeah,
min
I think
price.
so. I think so. Listen, I actually used to like playing on Yahoo, and then I kind of
Same.
fell off of it a little bit.
Same.
Yeah, for sure. Coming back tonight, min price. I don't hate it.
And our boy H
We
Rich.
like the Cubs. I mean, we'll talk about the Cubs in a moment. If you get Nico Horner in that stack leading off and min price, I'm in.
Our boy H Rich. I know this isn't the position. Odolis or Jordan in tournaments.
Jordan's the better play, but I like Adolis a lot tonight.
Yeah.
So if I'm picking one, I think I'm always taking Jordan. Even though it is a lefty-lefty matchup for him against Waldichuk, but I like him at home. I don't know how long Waldichuk will be in that game, and they could get a righty spot in there. But I mean, Adolis has been mashing righties. I like the Rangers stack a lot today.
Yes.
But I think Jordan is where I'm going.
Those are my top 2 stacks of the day. So like I have trouble picking between them. The lefty for Jordan doesn't bother me. He was the cover of my playbook today. We can get into it in a little bit when the numbers present themselves on the Waldichuk splits because he is just as bad against lefties as he is against righties. So I'd lean Jordan as a one-off, but I think if you're playing a stack of either, like please just include one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Trout not in the lineup today for
just a reason to like Joe Ryan even more. Like just a
Yeah.
reason to just plug Joe Ryan in now.
Yep. Even better. Like you said, we were already in on Joe Ryan. Now you just take out their best hitter. So beautiful. All right, so we hit up to Jonah Heim. If we want to go down below, Kybert gets a lefty and Boyd. I'm in. Jan Gomes against the Rangers Suarez. I mean, Jan Gomes just hits home runs off every lefty he faces. $2,800. It's Colton Wong's birthday, James. I don't know if you knew that, but
Connor Wong.
Sorry, Connor Wong. Who's Colton Wong? Did I make that?
He is the second baseman.
Connor Wong. Connor Wong it's his birthday today. Birthday narrative. Connor Wong against a lefty at $2,800, possibly. Zevi is in the lineup tonight against Greinke at $2,100. So just throwing some more names out there at you.
Of that tier, Jan Gomes for sure would be the guy for me. Just given how good he's been against lefties. Sure. I think something very intriguing for me if you're not playing Belak, and I completely understand not playing him. I really do. It's not like I'm like he is the best play in the world. Like he's not. We've talked about Shea Langoliers specifically about right-handed pitching and how he just hasn't hit lefties. 266 ISO against righties, 344 WOBA, hitting 4th tonight. It's a really good spot in the lineup. It's obviously a much better hitting environment as well. And Belak allowed a 250 ISO thus far to righties. So if you're not playing him, I'm perfectly fine getting to Langoliers 3,200 as well.
Sure. Just one more number on the Jan Gomes thing because we alluded to it, but I wanted to see what the numbers actually were. They are as good as we thought. 355 average, 774 slug, 1157 OPS. 4 of his 11 hits have been home runs against lefties this year. So he is 11 for 31, 5 extra base hits, 4 homers against Southpaws. So
shout out Yanni.
Shout out Yanni Gomes there, 100%. All right, move on over to first base. Where are you taking a peek? I think we looked at this last night. We weren't like in love with the top tier guys. It's more so mid tier in value. Mountcastle kind of starts it off for me, and we go down from there.
So I have come around on Alonso.
Okay.
And there's a lot
the recent power numbers.
So there is a lot of things I think gonna come around to bite Cal Quantrill in the near future, and by that I mean possibly this evening. Yes, sub 3 ERA or sub 4 ERA. XFIP north of 5. He doesn't miss bats, 15% strikeout rate. Fly ball rate, 36% is not great. Against righties, 33% hard hit rate against lefties, 41% hard hit rate. Like everything kind of suggests there's going to be regression on the horizon for Cal Quantrill. And Alonso just has been homering against anybody and everybody of late. 265 ISO this year against right-handed pitching. So I could see myself getting to Alonso. I could see myself getting to a Mets stack. The Mets are very intriguing today because they have so many cheap pieces that are just power bats. Like Vientos is 2,500. Beatty is 3,100. Like both these guys hitting in like pretty decent. Jeff McNeil hitting third, $3,600. Like they're not expensive. If you wanted to play Alonso, who is expensive, there's like plenty of pieces you can fit around Alonso to make your stack look like very formidable. So I like Pete Alonso 54 if that's where you'd want to go. But I fully agree on like your Mountcastle call as well because he's just crushed lefties and we've alluded to it. Like this isn't Baltimore. We're not playing in Baltimore tonight. We're playing in Toronto. And if you've listened to the stream before, you've heard John scream it from the rooftops about Toronto moving their walls in this past offseason.
Lefties this year, Mountcastle 994 OPS, 661 slug, 332 average, 5 of his 9 home runs, 16 RBIs there, 10 extra base hits of the 19 hits. So almost over 50% of his hits against lefties have gone for extra bases. So definitely a spot where I like Ryan Mountcastle tonight. On a big slate like this, it's where we always say, like, go find a 3 max somewhere. Go get multiple lineups in there because trying to pick one lineup with all of these great matchups tonight you're gonna pull your hair out. So like Alonso, like Mountcastle a lot. Nathaniel Lowe, a guy that has driven James and I insane this season. I am willing to go back to the well with him here tonight at $4,200 with a Texas stack going up against this kid here that they're calling up Kaufman. Just the numbers that he's had at AAA are abysmal. At some point, Nathaniel Lowe is going to get going, right? He's hitting third, right? Surrounded by plenty of good offensive talent. So willing to take a stab there at 42.
Yeah, and it was the left-handed variety that gave Kaufman like most issues. I mean, everyone was obviously he has an 80 RA, so everyone was hitting him at AAA. But lefties hitting 370 against him with 1,000 OPS. This is the split. Like this is the matchup if Nathaniel Lowe is going to get jump started. It's not that he has been bad either against right-handed pitching.
No, he's been good.
353 WOBA, 202 ISO, like both of those are plus numbers. It's just last year we finally saw the breakout in the power department, and we just haven't this year. So, the ground ball rate is really what's like 44% ground ball rate, dude, against right-handed pitching. Like, come on, man. Like, we just saw your breakout last year. Now we're regressing to this.
His numbers against righties this year are actually very similar to what they were last year. Last year, he hit 330 with a 920 OPS against lefties last year. So he was just hitting absolutely everybody. But if you're just looking righty numbers, pretty much right on par. 280, an 800 OPS, and a slug of 480. That was basically what he gave you last year against righties, on par with the same number. So I'm willing to throw him in a lineup here tonight at 42. I like that a lot. Turner's homered in back-to-back games. If you like the Red Sox tonight, 37. Pasquantino back into 4K at $3,600 feels really good. I like that one a lot there as well.
You know what's funny? Like, I'm not sure what the ownership is going to be for the Royals because I could see it being a case where a lot of people gravitate to value of the Royals. It looks like they're going to be, I guess, a little popular, which kind of makes me sad because like 3,600 Vinny Pasquantino is just too cheap. It's criminal. Nick Pratto 3,100 is an extremely good value where obviously you can play Pratto in the outfield and get both of them into your lineup. So I like both first basemen. Dude, Michael Kopech has been so bad this year. He has not been any good. And I think people are starting to take notice. I'm okay getting to whatever iteration of a Royal stack as you want. Because I mentioned, like, Salvi is there at catcher. They're not expensive. Like, Witt is your most expensive member of the stack. And then everything else is just free. I mean, it's Bobby Witt, and
He had
then
a little
everything
wind
else.
blowing out in Chicago here as well for this game. So
Yeah, it's been a top ballpark to hit in all year long. Like it's so yeah, I could be persuaded to play either guy. Like he doesn't really strike people out. Let's see I guess he has a pretty good strikeout rate against lefties this year. Michael Kopech, 27%. He doesn't miss bats against righties at all. But 273 ISO allowed, 345 WOBA to lefties. Like
yeah.
he's in trouble, man. Then Pasquantino and Nick Prado are both firmly in play.
Alrighty. Anybody else down here for you that you're interested in? Mancini's hitting 6 tonight against Suarez.
It would probably be Vientos, who you could also play at third.
Sure. Vaughn, $2,600 for Vaughn tonight.
Yeah. The White Sox are in an interesting spot as well on the flip side. Just like I will say, if I just went back and looked at all the starts I've stacked against Zach Greinke, it's the most infuriating thing ever because yeah, he does seemingly give up a home run every start, but it's 5 innings, 2 strikeouts, 2 to 3 earned runs, and then it's dude, everything suggests you should be crap, and you're just limiting the damage every time out. He has been very good against righties this year. 299 WOBA allowed, 152 ISO. So not the best thing to attack. Lefties have definitely given him more
He
problems.
just throws soft. So
Yeah.
it throws everybody off waiting for these 100-mile-an-hour pitches, and you're getting 60-mile-an-hour eephuses, right? So
yeah.
Probably the only other guy I would throw out there if you're not going against Belak, give Noda 28 hitting second. Could be a spot there. Second base. Mookie Betts is your top guy here. There's some rain in St. Louis. The game, we should probably watch out a little bit for that. If you're playing Dodgers St. Louis today, possible weather interference in that one. But he's 56, $100. You have Estrada, Uraz. Not really in on those guys here. I guess a returning Altuve hitting leadoff at 5K. You mentioned Houston's one of your favorite sacks today. He's got to be included in that, right?
I mean, it all depends on people returning from rehab assignments, right, John? Don't make the case for. You said you didn't like Paxton was bad on his. Altuve was 2 for 22 on his rehab assignment.
Sure.
So I don't know if I can get there at 5K. I like the depth that Altuve provides. He's 3,400 on FanDuel, so I feel like I'd be more inclined to get to him over there. DraftKings is a little tougher. I mean, if you're playing Houston, you could definitely use him. I actually kind of like what Bregman's been doing lately, and Jordan. Their lineup looks just better with Altuve overall. I think Simeon is the top dog here. $5,300 is just fine.
Warner coming back and pushing Morel to 8th is annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. It is very annoying. We love Nico Horner, but now I guess here my question is going to be this is a lefty thing, right? Because he had been so bad against lefties, and he was the other day, and then he homers off Frambar.
Yeah.
And but he was 1 for 5 with 4 strikeouts and a home run, the full experience. I assume Morel gets moved back up against righties.
Sure.
We'll see, but it is very annoying.
Other mid-tier options for you here. I mean, McKinstry's leading off. I mean, I don't know. I don't think much if you're not in on Irvin, right? Just some value leadoff play there. You have McNeil against Quantrill, just your slap hitter hitting third though. For that lineup there.
I think it's Miguel Vargas.
Yeah, Miguel Vargas, but the weather is you got to watch. That's an issue there.
So is it because earlier today it seemed like the issue was going to be more for pitchers? I typically if I'm using offense and there's there could be a delay, but no real postponement issue. I'm fine using batters. Plus, it will depress their ownership even more. If I was using pitchers in this game, I'd be a little worried.
Sure.
I don't know if we've gotten any updates from Roth on that, but earlier today, I didn't think there was much postponement issue. So I've been in on the Dodgers. it's so funny how they rank so poorly against left-handed pitching, and then you look at like all their numbers, and it's all like good against lefties, good against lefties, good against lefties. It's like where where are these like team numbers coming from that they rate out so poorly? Four of their top 5 hitters have a 300 plus ISO against left-handed pitching this year.
Right.
Vargas 167, that's middling. We know the walk rate's there, so but I like Vargas here. He would be my value second baseman.
Okay. Going on over then to third base here. Guys are at the top. Some big names: Devers, Riley, Ramirez is back for Cleveland. You know, we don't know about Machado, but I guess we'll find out if he's in there. How are you ranking out these top guys?
Amongst the top third baseman, I have interest in about none of them.
None of them.
Like, yeah, I mean, you can make a case for any of them. But like, I am kind of just moving on down. I think third base, I really like the next tier of guys. Like, I don't love the lefty spot for Devers. I know he hits lefties and he's been good, but like 5,600 lefty against a guy who's been very good against left-handed bats is I'm kind of out on. Riley, is a home run or bust right now. He's been kind of bad. So Ramirez coming back from bereavement. What do we get from him? Jung, we've talked about like for a week straight. He just feels overpriced. So I really like Yohan Moncada, and I know you're gonna laugh at me because like that's been your favorite player for the last month.
You're always yelling at me for it.
He has profiled very, very good against right-handed pitching this year. And we were just talking about Greinke, like specifically worse against left-handed pitching. Moncada this year, 245 ISO, 383 WOBA against righties. Greinke's allowed a 235 ISO, 344 WOBA to lefties. So I like Moncada. Bregman, signs of life, John. There is a pulse. Home runs in 2 of the last 3, RBIs in 3 of 3 straight games. 779 OPS, all like, or 913 OPS, over his last 10 games. Like, he's been better. And now you put Jose Altuve in front of him. Like, maybe there is a lot more run production opportunity. Patrick Wisdom, we know his history with left-handed pitching. And although the guy strikes out a boatload, he is always one pitch away from depositing one. I do like him quite a bit. So, yeah, I don't have much interest in the top tier of third base. It's just mainly mid tier and then some value options as well.
Yeah, that's all that works for me. Again, I'm big on the mid tier. So, when we look at some of the value we talk about, Beatty's down here, Berger's down here, Vientos, as we mentioned previously, going to be on some radars here tonight. So definitely some spend down. Candelario is at $3,100. Kyle Farmer, our guy, $3,100. So, definitely some value on tonight's slate.
Our guy, I think, is a loose way to put it. I would say your guy.
Our guy is in the show. Our guy is in the show.
Better baseball show favorite, Kyle Farmer.
Mm-hmm.
The first 3 guys you mentioned for me were exactly it. Beatty hitting 5th. He's been kind of unlucky, and Quantrill's due to regress. Jake Berger, I don't love him hitting 7th. Hitting 5th yesterday was great to see. We know the power with Jake Berger can be there. And then Vientos, as we both talked about earlier, just a lot of power hitting 7th, like that lineup spot as well. So those 3 would be the value guys. And you're right on the Candelario front. He's been pretty good since I dropped him in FSGA. So I'm so happy for him that he has 4 straight multi-hit games. I'm just so happy for him. I wish him nothing but the best. 5 extra base hits over that span too. So yeah, Candelario, Matt Boyd is coming off an awful start. The only problem with like using a lot of Washington, I would love to use a lot of Washington, is like they just like don't hit for power other than Lane Thomas at times. So, I would love to use righties here, but I don't think you can get away with more than like 1 or 2 of them.
I would agree with you. I would agree. All right, shortstop here. Guys are at the top again. Some names: Bichette, Turner, Bobby Witt at $5,100. And then we have kind of the mid tier where I keyed in on. I like Corey Seager a lot tonight, hitting second at $4,800. He's the cover of the show, so no giveaways there.
Yeah. No giveaways. He's also just 3K on FanDuel, which I found criminal. Lefties have killed Kaufman in the minor leagues. I don't expect that to or anything to change there. So love Seager. Jeremy Pena would be the other option up here. He's hit lefties extremely well this year. Coming off, hits in 3 straight games and in 4 or 5 overall. Power speed guy.
Yeah.
So I like Jeremy Pena 49. I know probably at like the top of the price point range for him. But if you're not going to Seager, I like Jeremy Pena quite a bit. 49.
Sure. Other guys down here in this range. What are we peeking at? Swanson 45. Orlando Arcia keeps hitting. Not that we're going up against Bryce Miller, but a guy that has been hitting pretty hot there. Chris Taylor against a lefty at 32 is kind of interesting. Ezekiel Duran's hitting $2,800 down there. Where else are you peeking tonight?
Yeah, Chris Taylor actually made my playbook as a write-up, as a value option, solely based on the power. It has only been, the only reason I think Chris Taylor still might have a job is because he's hitting for so much power against left-handed pitching. And Steven Matz has been, the recipient of a lot of power coming his way against right-handed bats. 200 ISO, 392 WOBA allowed. Chris Taylor this year, 447 ISO. That leads the team. Hitting fifth, it's strikeout or home run right now for Chris Taylor. He has a 40% strikeout rate against. But it's we're getting Christopher Morel for $2,000 cheaper than Christopher Morel, hitting fifth, right? We're getting a guy who's doing a ton in the power department when he makes contact. When he doesn't, he's striking out. That's it's really just one or the other right now. But Steven Matz, 18% strikeout rate against righties. That's profile's really, really good. So I like Chris Taylor quite a bit. That would be my favorite value play, and maybe the only value play I'd get to. If you needed to save some cash and get to Miguel Rojas in this Dodgers lineup, do how you feel there.
I do like Duran there, as I mentioned. As I'm a Braves fan, they strike out a decent bit looking at Miller. We talked about it. Miller throws a lot of fastballs here, so they're that can be dangerous when you're facing out the Braves. But to your point, they do strike out a lot. But he is a 60% fastball, 20% slider, is 10% change and 10% curve or something like that. So, if you think the fastball can get by some of these guys, that's fine. I don't know if you've seen how Ronald Acuna has been hitting lately. Not many pitches are getting by that man. So that I do worry for. That's it for me though at shortstop. Anybody else for you? I don't really see much, so I don't know if you see it. No, I don't think so.
No.
Outfield then. You got Acuna at your top. He's $6,400. As we mentioned, 325, 1138, 725 slug, 5 homers, 3 stolen bases. Last 10 games, he's homered in 4 straight. So, best player in baseball, doing best player in baseball stuff.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine getting there. He's not my top spend up, but he what bad can we possibly say about Ronald Acuna Jr.?
Yep, I agree. So who is your top spend up then? Talk to me, man.
Yordan Alvarez is my favorite spend up. And it kind of plays into the Houston stack. Lefties, righties, Ken Waldichuk just getting mashed by everybody. 422 WOBA against righties, 367 WOBA against lefties, 273 ISO against lefties, 297 against righties. Now we get him outside of Oakland, where he has a benefit of a ballpark that he can't even pitch in. And now he's getting put in Houston to a team getting their leadoff hitter back, just, now infinitely deeper of a lineup. And you get a guy in Yordan, 240 ISO with a 364 WOBA against lefties. And it's actually been better over the last 2 years combined, 277 ISO, 413 WOBA against left-handed pitching. Like, he's actually doing worse this year. So just giving you an idea, like, there could be positive regression coming Jordan's way against left-handed pitching. I love him. $66,000. Love Mookie Betts, 5,600. He's been great against left-handed pitching this year. Over a 300 ISO, so all the power.
What do you think about Cedric
against a
Mullins
guy
hitting
who's-
leadoff against a lefty tonight? You like Baltimore?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Kikuchi's just been really, really tough on lefties. Like, I like righties a whole bunch against Kikuchi. He's just been good against left-handed. I guess that's changed a little bit, but it's just such a small sample. Maybe Mullins actually doing pretty good against lefties this year too. 255 ISO, 397 WOBA. Doesn't strike out. Hits a lot of fly balls. Maybe I can get to said Mull.
We talked about it, like making multiple lineups tonight, getting Santander, getting Mountcastle, getting Austin Hayes. We'll touch on in a moment. Like getting some of these Baltimore guys in Toronto against Kikuchi, right, I think is an interesting stack there for sure. Buxton against a lefty and Detmers is at 52. Brian, if you're not a Martin Perez, the lefty righty there. Adolis, as we mentioned, one of our favorite plays as part of a stack tonight where Texas is absolutely crushing right-handed pitching. I know you mentioned lefties did a lot of the damage against Kaufman, but looking at the power, I mean, Adolis here, 3 games, over 20 fantasy points in the last 4. He had that 50 fantasy point game earlier this year, 68 fantasy points earlier. So crazy high ceiling for him there. What are you making of Riley Green being up over around 5K here? 410,000 OPS, 564 slug over the last 10 games for him. Former one of the top prospects in baseball. I mean, would you consider? Is he a play for you at all tonight?
I like he's not striking out as much. He was striking out a boatload to start the year. And I like the fact all 6 of his doubles. You wonder if the approach has changed because all 6 doubles he's hit this year in his last 10 games. Like, he's not just swinging for the fences anymore. I probably won't get there 4,900 because he hasn't hit for any power really. I don't know. Especially like next tier, JD Martinez 47. I love the Dodgers. Santander 45. We talked about him a lot every time there's a lefty on the mound. Randall Grichuk, I think, is super contrarian. He's mashed lefties over the last 2 years and really his whole career. So, like, I get it that I'm happy for Riley Green being good, but I don't think I'm going to pay $4,900.
Springer and Varsho there, 42, 41, pretty good mid-tier guys at that price. Hap's always been better against righties, so I'm not really in on Hap as much at $4,300. With Seiya at 41, I'm in on. I like that play a lot. Hayes, as I mentioned, is 4K. Lewis Robert is $4,000. Both of those look pretty appealing. I don't mind Rooker. He was just hitting everybody. Lane Thomas hits really well against lefties at home. He's leading off tonight, so some pretty interesting guys just like at that 41 to 4K range.
Yeah, love all of them. You're going to get Lane Thomas, likely the lowest owned of all. And Austin Hayes hitting 5th didn't have a great year last year against lefties, but 2 years ago he was fantastic, and he's back to doing those normal Austin Hayes type of things. Love all 3 of them. Have no preference in any of them. I could see myself getting to any and all.
Yeah, Lane Thomas 5 homers already this year. I feel like that was what did he finish with last year? Did he have 20? Last year he had 17 home runs last season. On the year against left-handed pitching this year, he is hitting 362 with a 596 and 1,000 OPS. So again, Lano Thomas there at $3,900, pretty.
Lano, nice. I like how you guys are on a nick.
We're best friends, him and I. Estory Ruiz leading off at $3,600. Michael Harris gives you a wraparound. I know we're not really in on Atlanta per se, but you could be. You got a Harris Acuna, $3,400. Melendez is $3,300. Don't mind that.
Yep, I think that's interesting.
Right, sure. Prado, as you talked about earlier, is at 31. Doyle, I know you've been big on Doyle. He's 3K here.
O'Doyle rules, John. O'Doyle rules. No, I mean, look, like he's been good. Like, I don't know. I hate that they're hitting him 7th, but it is what it is. He has 319 fantasy point games in his last 4. And he has like 2 games in which he's homered and stole a base this year. Like, he can do, he's a dual threat. And nobody knows about him or is expecting this, but yeah, $3,000 is a pretty good price tag.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. Baudet, I know another guy that we were riding there again in the right matchups. Stone Garrett, another. Listen, I get it. They're Washington, right? 320, 480, 913 OPS against lefties.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. Like
they're good again. They're good.
Our team that doesn't have like any ISO to speak of. Like they have a lot of guys with like high slugging against left-handed pitching. So.
Yes.
Again, $3,000 for here. We know Ref Snyder will hit 3rd for Boston. Azuna, again, another fastball hitter for them. $2,800 for him there. You mentioned Ramon Laureano starting to heat up a little bit. Power in back-to-back games. Hits now. It was 6 of 7 games for him. So maybe Laureano if you're like Oakland a little bit here. Where else are we? Gavin Sheets is $2,500.
Yep. Lefties against Zach Greinke for sure. I could see myself getting to 2 Houston value guys. Corey Julks, who has looked really good against lefties specifically this year. 294 ISO, 339 WOBA. And Jake Myers. I wish Chas McCormick was in the lineup.
Yeah.
Don't know why he's not. He does nothing but hit lefties, but I digress. Myers.
Yeah, Jake Myers rookie card. Do you think it's worth anything?
After he goes double dong tonight, maybe 403 WOBA against lefties, 278 ISO. I kind of like both these guys down here. Hitting against left-handed pitching, and Ken Waldichuk, he's terrible. You can play Trace Thompson hitting 9th. That's
what do you think about Miles Straw and the stolen base potential for him?
I like Miles Straw if he was actually good at baseball, and he's not.
Well, I mean,
no, he's fine.
At least fantasy points in 6 straight games.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's fair.
I mean, we're deep down here, so
no, we are. I would probably rather just play the
Ryan McKenna is 2K hitting 6 tonight for Baltimore, by the way.
Yeah, that's a little interesting. Right? They do. Why did they do this?
What is Ryan McKenna doing against lefties? Let's see. It's probably a super small sample size. Ryan McKenna against lefties this year. He is pretty much only played against lefties. 11 for 33, 333 average, 515 slugging, 876 OPS.
In 105 at-bat sample for McKenna against lefties, 345 WOBA.
Yeah.
That's last year and this year.
He had 460 slugging against lefties last season.
Like, the problem is who's not in the lineup for Baltimore tonight? Gunnar Henderson, Stowers.
Those guys suck.
Yeah, but they pinch hit right if a righty comes in? Like, they're just going to pinch hit for him?
I mean, maybe.
Is this a Kyle Garlick?
I don't know.
This is
Kyle
are they
going to pinch hit for him? I mean, let's see.
Because, like, I feel like it's possible. 2 at-bats on the 16th. He had 4 at-bats against the Angels, so that feels like he played every...
So he pinch hit in the 2 at-bat game. Taran Varva started, and he pinch hit for them.
Okay. Varva. Varva?
Favra?
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever pronunciation it is, he is a lefty, so... I don't know, just throwing it out there. Like, could Ryan O'Hearn come pinch hit for him?
McKenna did get pinch hit for when he went 1 for 3. I guess in his last at bat, they pinch hit Gunnar Henderson. He was playing center field though, so they just pinch hit Gunnar. I imagine late in that game. I don't know the scenario for it, but
Right. Whoever they had DHing
Yeah.
was probably an outfielder
Yeah.
too.
So I mean, sure. I'm just. It's interesting if they get to him early enough, like he pays off 2K.
Sure.
So
Sure. I mean, look, if you're playing Baltimore, right? Like if you're playing a Baltimore
yeah.
stack, that's you could
Mark
do it
wants to know:
for
did
sure.
we talk about Seiya? We did. We like Cubs a lot tonight.
We did. We did.
Definitely in lineup. Said that price tag. Big power numbers lately. What do we got? Seiya against lefties this year. Seiya. I can't spell his first name here. There we go. Let's see. Against lefties, Seiya is hitting 394, 546, 990. So decent.
These for
Decent
sure.
numbers for sure. All right, we got 5 minutes left to go. Let's build some lineups here, James. Pitching. Let's start off with our Ryan Elder build, and then if we have time, we'll do another one. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. Ryan and Elder are in. Catcher.
I want to skip catcher for now. Let's
Skip catcher
figure out other
okay.
position. I want to spend up, but I just don't know if we're gonna have the.
You want to? I like down goings, but that's fine. All right, first base. Who's your first baseman?
What do we want to do? Do we want to go Nate Lowe, Nathaniel Lowe, Pasquantino?
Yeah, I mean, I like Nate Lowe. That's fine by me.
Mountcastle.
I mean, it depends. Are we going? I don't mind getting to Mountcastle here if we think we're gonna play Baltimore. Do you want to one? I don't really know if we're gonna one off Mountcastle is my thing. So we do a 2-man Mountcastle Santander maybe.
Yeah, I think Santander is a definite piece of our build.
Okay. So we'll do a 2-man start, Mountcastle Santander. We'll have to use Seager because he's been the cover of everything we've done today.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3,200 a play for remaining here. So
Vargas Taylor. Taylor's
Vargas
Taylor.
Can't think we can use Taylor.
No, we can't. He's shortstop outfield. We can, but I don't know if it's like I don't know if he's better than other value plays that we talked about.
3,900. Who's your spend up catcher that you wanted?
There's 4 of them. I'd play Smith, Rutschman, or Salvi, like all in amazing spots. Plus, I mean, if you want to just throw John Heim in that mix too, like there's four guys 3,900 or more that I would.
I don't mind Heim.
That I would.
I don't mind John Heim 3,900. Goes pairs up a little bit with Seager, a little bit. Third base. Who's our third baseman?
Moncada, Bregman. There's a bunch of value.
There's obviously more value in the outfield, so I mean we could find a guy and pair him up. Let's see here, 2,800. I mean, do you like Taylor? We can just throw Taylor in there. He pairs right up with Vargas because this is a $4,700 third baseman.
Moncada
or Bregman.
I mean, we don't have Houston. I think Houston's my favorite stack of the night. So
well then let's. How do we fit that in then?
Well, why don't we just build a second lineup because I don't think you can do Elder. They're just so expensive. Like they're just too expensive. You could do.
Well, give me your 3 Houston guys.
Jordan, Bregman, and Jeremy Pena.
So we have 49.75. We'll start with Heim, but it feels like we're probably better off going.
Jan Gomes.
Vargas. We go. What are we at? Ryan and Elder. 2,900 for first baseman, outfield. You could just go McKenna. 3,350.
Vientos. Oh, and Nick Prado, if you're doing that.
Yeah, that's where
Nick Prado's 31.
Yeah, that's where I was going. So you got your 3 Houston. You got Prado and Pasquantino. You got Vargas in there and Heim. And if you wanted to go down to Jan Gomes here, gives you an extra 11.
No Machado again, by the way. Okay. No Machado for you, James. For us, James Paxton believers out there.
Yeah. Dosea here.
Yeah.
$3,700.
Still Vinny Paz.
Yeah. Could do that. All right. So there's a couple lineups. James and I will be in the Discord answering your questions up to roster lock here. Again, getting the FaceTime All-Pro package here. Get access to all of our DFS and seasonal content for all sports. FaceTime.com/All-Pro. Promo code MLB50 gets you 50% off that package for the first 6 months. James and I will be back on Monday. Good luck, everybody.